Hey, what's up? It's Jordan here again from hardcoremixing.com, and I've got something a little bit different for you in this video. I always find it kind of fun and interesting to go back to mixes that I did years ago and kind of listen to them and see what I like about them, see what I did well or did right, and see things that I would maybe change today, but also recognize the things that made that mix and those songs unique at that time. And for that reason, maybe I wouldn't change anything about it. So in this video, I wanted to take a look at one of the songs off of Counterparts' debut record, which was one of the first records for me that kind of helped push my career forward a bit. The record was really well received by the scene around here, and eventually the band got picked up by Victory and is still doing great things. So kudos to those guys. Obviously, a huge part of the success of this record and the band is just due to the songwriting and everything, but the mix on this album is actually, even to this day, what I still get a lot of compliments on. So I just thought it'd be cool to open up one of the mixes and give you guys a look through and kind of pick out what is interesting to me, what I think is unique and made the mix special. So let's just listen a bit. This is, I believe this track is called Goodbye Megaton from Counterparts' album Profits. So I recorded and mixed this album in 2009. So this is like 6 years ago. So if I was mixing this today, I would definitely do some things differently. But like I said, it's also cool to go back and remember where I was at that point in my career and just see some of the good things that came out of that. So one thing that really stands out in this mix, in this album in general, is just simplicity. This is when I was really starting to get serious about recording and mixing. And I really started to see how just getting the proper takes and just really focusing on the quality up front of the recording rather than trying to wait and fix things in the mix was super important. And so that's why there's really not that much processing in this mix. We spent a lot of time getting the right tones, getting, really good takes. And I was also kind of in the stage of my career where I had noticed that I was overusing plugins and processing a lot. And so I kind of went almost far the opposite way where I tried to use as little processing as possible in the mix. And that's also contributing a lot to the sound here as well. There's a few things I want to just dig into and show in more detail here. Let's check out the drums. So I did replace it with a kick sample, but this sample was actually taken from the drum kit that we use and recorded live. So let's check this out. I'm going to bypass the plugins. So again, that's a sample we recorded of the kick drum that we used. I got a little gate on here just to tighten it up. Standard kick EQ, pretty extreme since this is a sample. I could get away with doing a full 15 dB boost at 8K here. And then just a little more EQ after that. So just from a kind of rather bland sounding kick recording that we got there, I just did a ton of EQ, both subtracting and adding different frequencies, and ended up with a pretty good sounding kick drum that I actually used on other mixes through the years as well. I ended up replacing the snare as well, so it's mostly just fully a sample sound here, a couple samples mixed together. But I thought it was cool how you can see this live snare track here is muted except for on these little fill parts. And what I did was for the faster drum fills, since I didn't want it to sound too mechanical, which I think looking back now in the final mix, it is a little too mechanical sounding with the samples, but I was trying to avoid that when I mix this, and that's why you can see on these faster fills, I've got the live snare in the mix, and I've got the snare samples turned down. Let's check that out. And that just helped add a little bit of realism back into the snare since I was using all snare samples and just using hard hits on that. And that's something I'll still do today. I might do it a little bit smoother with more finesse, just having more experience now and skills. But yeah, I'll totally use a snare sample for just the hard hits in a song, and then I'll mix in a live snare for ghost notes and stuff that need a little more character and dynamics in there. So the thing about the drums in this mix, again, pretty minimal processing on all the tracks. You see there's not a lot of plugins here. On my drum bus, I'm just doing a tiny bit of compression and EQ. Just adding a little bit of extra top in on that EQ, that's it. And there's also like hardly any effects. So all I've got going on for most of the song is just this drum room reverb. So let's check that out. That's just the wave's impulse response with a studio impulse in there, a little bit of EQ to clean it up after. And this is just to add a little more ambiance to the drums, but it's not a noticeable reverb, especially in the mix. If you mute it, you don't really miss it too much. So it's subtle, it helps a bit, but again, not a lot of effects after the fact. Pretty raw, kind of dry drum sound in this mix, and there is a snare plate and a hall reverb that I use on the snare for certain sections, but that's it. All right, the next thing I wanted to show you that really stands out about this mix is the guitar. So like I said, we worked hard on getting a good tone up front. So check this out. These are my left and right guitar tracks here. Let's scroll down. No plugins on these tracks. Pans hard left and right. They're bus to this aux track with a single EQ plugin. So let's check this out. And on the EQ plugin, really like hardly anything happening, just subtractive EQ. So we've got a high pass filter at 80 here, just cleaning up the mud, and then doing a little dip at 744, only 1 dB, and then a narrow dip just above 4K just to get rid of some of the harshness there. And that's it. That's all I did on these guitars. No compression, no saturation, nothing else. So you can hear how subtle that is, just like a couple small EQ moves just to take out a little bit of the honk in the mid-range and clean up some of the harshness in the high mids, and then a high-pass filter, like super simple. And something that I still believe in today is the more processing you have to do on heavy distorted guitars, the thinner and worse they sound. So this is kind of almost the epitome of that, is just really taking the time to get a great tone out of the amp and the mic and just barely processing it in the mix. Again, today I would probably do a little more to those guitars, a little compression, but again, there was certain plugins and tools that I didn't have back at this time, and maybe my knowledge of compression just wasn't there, and I was just really trying to work with raw sounds and keep it as clean as possible. So that's pretty cool about the guitars there. That's kind of one of my favorite parts of this mix. The last thing I wanted to point out in this mix is the vocals. Again, just how raw they are. And I remember, I think we finished tracking this record like almost a full week early because Brendan just went in and just banged out the vocal tracks in like 2 days or something. I think or maybe 2.5 days. I think he did like 4 songs a day, in a half a day session, and then finish up on the third day with the last couple songs. So super raw vocals, just good takes, got the energy, and just got it done and got out, not obsessing about stuff. And then there's just standard processing on the vocals, some saturation, little EQ, some de-esser, and a limiter following it up. So let's check that out. We're left to build from decay with the whole world crashing down around you. How the fuck could we let? Obviously, the EQ is doing a lot here on the SSL channel. We're left to build from decay with the whole world. You can pause the video and look at my settings here if you want, using the compressor on that as well. I think I would have compressed on the way in with a distressor here, so not doing a ton of compression on the track. We're left to build from decay with. We're left to build from decay with the whole world crashing down around you. Just minimal de-esser and then a limiter just to even it off. We're left to build from decay with the whole world crashing down around you. Now check out how dry these vocals sound too. All I've got is a short stereo delay here to add a little bit of space, and that's just like 180 milliseconds on one side, 220 on the other. Little trick there. Again, pause the video if you want to see those settings, but just super minimal, like dry sounding vocal right up in your face, really add to the character of this track and not take away from it by layering it with a bunch of effects and wet ambience and stuff. It's just his raw voice kind of right up front there. All right, guys, so that was a quick look into my mix of Counterparts about 6 years ago. Pretty cool to see everything that went into this mix and kind of how my techniques have changed, but also a lot of how they've stayed the same since then. And really, instead of changing a lot, it's just more so just refining and refining and refining. So hopefully this is a good example of simplicity in the mix and just getting the tones right and not overthinking things and really just presenting the raw character of the band. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Maybe I'll do a couple more of these, kind of digging inside some of my past mixes. Leave me a comment or a like or a thumbs down if you want. But if you're looking for more videos, more tips on mixing heavy music and hardcore and metal, just head over to hardcoremixing.com, and I'll talk to you guys later.